Good Novatos, thanks again for tuning in to yet another video. Infamous coming at you live from the West Coast, San Jose, California. So this is a pretty much straightforward installation. This is the TCMT crash bar. So if you have an FXRT fairing and you're wondering, hey, what will work with the lowers, then this is pretty much that bar. You could also get a Bum King or a Dominator crash bar. So I went with the TCMT. So here's a quick tip. If you're having trouble breaking that Loctite off your foot controls, get your ratchet, get a pipe, and just slide that sucker right onto that ratchet, and it's going to give you a little bit more leverage on loosening those bolts. So you would have to remove your master rear cylinder, your brake, your foot controls, your brake cylinder for your rear brakes. Of course, you have to remove all of that. So just be careful when you're taking it off. Just try not to break anything or scratch it too bad. If you have towels or whatever, put that on there. Anyways, go ahead and place the crash bar into place in between your foot controls, of course. This installation is super easy compared to the Mustache engine guard from Harley Davidson. This is 100 times easier. So just go ahead and place this first bolt right here, the second from the top or the second from the right, because you have to install that brake, the master brake cylinder back, and that goes at the very first one, and then the last two towards the rear of the crash bar, that's for your foot control. So just install it, finger thread as always. You always want to finger thread these bolts. Do not cross thread anything. So we went ahead and loosely fitted that first bolt, and then we come over to the other side, and then we same thing. We just be patient with it. Try to get that first couple threads to catch, and then move the crash bar left and right, up and down, align it with that hole, and eventually it'll take. So on this side, you could go ahead and put both of the bolts, because the two rear ones, that's going to be for your foot control. So here I am, more Loctite. We have to do a lot of Loctite on this installation. It's a Harley, okay? Shakes a lot. There's going to be a lot of vibrations. So just as always, finger thread these bolts evenly. Tighten these bolts. Don't tighten one bolt down and then do the other one. You might have like an offset. It's not going to be even. So you want to properly seat these bolts where they're pretty much touching evenly, and then once you have everything kind of fitted and sitting properly, that's when you go back and you start cranking down on these bolts. You can pretty much do this on both sides. All right, it's very simple, pretty straightforward. Like I said, this crash bar mounts up perfectly. It mounts up perfectly on where it needs to go. There isn't any wrestling with the crash bar. There's nothing like trying to bend it into place, trying to flex it or anything like that. This thing fits like a glove, guys. It's top quality for the price. So yeah, we already went ahead and installed the master cylinder for the rear brakes, and now we're of course doing the same for the foot controls. This was a little tricky, mainly because you have to align that linkage. You just have to make sure it goes where it's supposed to go properly, and you just have to just kind of juggle it. So that's what the best part of installing it this way. You're not juggling the master cylinder, you're not juggling the foot control and the crash bar all at once. So this is why we go ahead and do that one bolt second from the top, that second bolt from the front, and then we go ahead and just finish it off, and everything's pretty much still sort of loose. Like I said, we don't want to tighten one side and then kind of find out that the holes aren't matching up on the other side. So once we have everything kind of seated properly and everything's looking pretty good, this is when we go ahead and start cranking down on these bolts. And that's why you see me jumping from left to right, just to make sure all these bolts are properly seated and nothing's offset, nothing's out of line. And when you're trying to crank down on something and it doesn't feel right, just go back, loosen it, and just check the bolts. So here's where we kind of ran into an issue right here. Now, I don't know if this is going to be with every kit out there, but I noticed that something was just not right, because the bolt was going in smoothly, and I say towards it, you know, being seated properly, it just wasn't going anymore. So I'm cranking down on it, and it just didn't felt right. So, you know, just heads up, if something starts to slow down and it's not fully seated, something's wrong. So I believe TCMT sent me a bolt too long. I think this bolt was probably, I'd say maybe a quarter inch too long. So I have spacers, so I was able to go ahead and use some spacers, and you'll see that towards the end of the video where I went ahead and used spacers, so you can see that it was still loose there in that shot. So that's the spacer right there that I used to kind of offset for that longer bolt on the other side of the crash bar. So not a big deal. It would have been a huge mess if I had busted or broken that bolt. It would have been a huge headache, but since I have the spacers, I was able to get around and fix that and have this installed in the same day. Now if I didn't have the spacers, I would have gone to Home Depot and you know, picked up another bolt or something like that. So just a heads up, you guys got to be careful. You guys stay out there, stay safe. Don't believe everything you read. Life's a risk. Get out there and ride. Later.